If you've ever worked alone at night, you know that feeling. The building sounds different at 3 a.m., like it's listening back. These are three real night shift stories, and the third one still creeps people out. Let's get into it. Mark had been working as a security guard at a mid-sized office building for about 8 months. Overnight shifts, 12 hours, mostly alone, except for one janitor who left around midnight. The building was 6 floors, mostly empty offices, a few server rooms, and a lobby with bad fluorescent lighting that buzzed all night. The job was boring. Honestly, rounds every 2 hours, checking doors, watching cameras, filling out logs. Nothing ever happened. That's exactly why what happened in month 9 stuck with him so much. It was a Tuesday, a little after 2 a.m. Mark was doing his usual round on the 4th floor, mostly cubicles, a couple of glass-walled meeting rooms, nothing unusual. He walked the hallway with his flashlight even though the lights were on, just out of habit. That's when he heard it. Footsteps, not from behind him, from inside, one of the meeting rooms he'd already passed and confirmed was empty. Just 3, maybe 4 steps, like someone shifting their weight, then nothing. Mark stopped. He told himself it was probably the building settling or the HVAC system kicking on somewhere. Old buildings make weird noises, he reminded himself. He walked back to the meeting room and looked inside. Empty, chairs pushed in, lights off exactly the way he left it 2 minutes earlier. He continued his round, chalked it up to nerves. Then it happened again, on the 5th floor. This time it wasn't footsteps. It was a chair. He heard the unmistakable scrape of an office chair rolling across tile, coming from a cubicle section he could see clearly from where he stood. And there was nobody there. The chair, when he checked, was in the exact same position it always was, tucked under the desk. By now, Mark said his heart was pounding. He radioed the front desk just to hear another voice, made small talk with the janitor's replacement for a few minutes, told himself it was nothing. But something in him didn't want to go back up to check the cameras alone. He did anyway, watched the footage from the past 20 minutes on both floors. Nothing moved, no shadows, no shifts in lighting, nothing that explained the sounds he'd heard with his own ears. The rest of the night was quiet. Mark finished his shift, went home, and didn't think much more of it until 3 weeks later, when a new hire mentioned completely unprompted that she'd heard footsteps and a chair moving on the 5th floor during her first solo overnight shift. Mark never got an explanation. The building had no history that he knew of, no reported deaths, no old tragedy, nothing dramatic. Just an ordinary office building where every so often, on certain nights, something moves that shouldn't. He still works there. He said the sounds happen maybe once every couple of months now. He stopped trying to explain it. He just does his rounds a little faster on those nights. Sarah worked as a nurse on the overnight shift in a hospital's general ward for almost 3 years. If you've ever worked in a hospital at night, you know it has its own rhythm. Quieter, slower, but somehow heavier. The lighting dims. The hallways stretch longer than they do in daylight. And most nurses will tell you strange things happen more at night than anyone likes to admit. Sarah's story starts with room 214. An elderly patient, terminal, family notified that his condition was declining fast. Sarah had checked in him around 1 a.m., vitals stable for his condition, resting quietly. Nothing alarming, all things considered. At around 3:40 a.m., his call light turned on. Sarah walked over, expecting the usual, pain, water, needing to be repositioned. When she stepped into the room, the patient was sitting upright, which alone was unusual given his condition. He looked at her clearly, more alert than he'd been all week, and said something that stuck with her permanently. He told her someone had been standing at the foot of his bed for the last few minutes. Not a nurse, not a doctor, just standing there, watching him. He described it calmly, almost matter of fact, the way people sometimes get near the end. Sarah checked the room. Nothing there, obviously. She reassured him, adjusted his pillows, and stayed a few extra minutes until he settled back down. He passed away later that same night, peacefully, around 5 a.m. Sarah said that alone wasn't the scary part. In her line of work, patients sometimes describe things like that near the end, and most nurses have heard some version of it before. What unsettled her was what happened 2 nights later. She was walking past room 214, now empty and being cleaned for the next patient, and the call light for that room turned on by itself. No patient inside. She stood there for a second, unsure what to do, then walked in and turned it off manually. The maintenance team checked the wiring the next day. Nothing wrong with it. No electrical fault, no short, nothing that explained it turning on with an empty bed and no one inside. It happened one more time, about 2 weeks later. Same room, same call light, activating in the middle of the night with the room unoccupied. After that, it stopped, and as far as Sarah knows, it hasn't happened since. She doesn't try to explain it. She just says hospitals at night have a way of reminding you that some things don't need an explanation to be real. This last one is the story people ask about most, and it's the one the original person who shared it says they still think about regularly. Jake worked the overnight shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. at a gas station just off a fairly quiet highway exit. Not much traffic after midnight, mostly truckers and the occasional local. The store had one of those older layouts, long aisles, a walk-in cooler in the back, and security cameras that were more decoration than functional. Half of them didn't even work, something corporate never bothered fixing. About 4 months into the job, Jake started noticing a pattern. Every so often, always between about 2 and 3 a.m., the same car would pull into the far end of the parking lot. Older model, dark color, no plates visible from the register. It would just sit there, engine off, for anywhere from 10 minutes to almost an hour. No one ever got out. No one ever came inside. At first, Jake didn't think much of it. People nap in parking lots, wait for calls, whatever. But it kept happening, always around the same time, always the same spot, always facing the store directly. One night, curiosity got the better of him. During a lull with no customers, he walked toward the front doors just to get a better look, maybe catch a plate number this time. As he got close to the glass, the car's headlights turned on, just the headlights, engine still off as far as he could tell, pointed directly at the store. Jake said he froze for a second, then stepped back from the doors. A few seconds later, the headlights turned off, and about a minute after that, the car pulled out of the lot and left. It didn't turn onto the highway. It went the opposite direction toward a stretch of road that, as far as Jake knew, led nowhere but empty fields for miles. He reported it to his manager the next day, more out of unease than anything actionable. Nothing came of it. No one else had noticed. There was no incident. Technically, nothing illegal had even happened. Just a car, sitting there watching. It kept happening, on and off, for another 2 months. Same time window, same spot, same pattern. Jake started parking his own car closer to the doors. Started keeping the store radio on louder than usual, just for the noise. He said the worst part wasn't any single night. It was the waiting, never knowing which night it would show up again. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The last time he saw it was in early winter. It sat there for almost 40 minutes, longer than usual, then pulled away the same direction as always. It never came back after that. Jake still doesn't know who was in that car, or why it kept coming back, or where that road actually leads. He left the job about a year later for unrelated reasons, but he said that if you ever find yourself working a night shift alone near a quiet highway exit and a car pulls in and just sits there, don't go check it out. Just let it sit. 3 stories, 3 night shifts, 3 things that never got a real explanation. If you ever worked a night shift and had something happen you still can't explain, drop it in the comments. Some of the best stories on this channel have come straight from people just like you. If this video kept you up a little tonight, that means it worked. Subscribe for more real horror stories every week, and I'll see you in the next one.